So you know HTML, but let's be honest, there's a huge difference between code that just works and code that's truly professional, the kind that's strong, easy to maintain, and actually built to last. Today, we're diving into the rules that make all the difference.
Look, you've written a million paragraph tags. You know what an H1 is for. But what about the rules that hold it all together? The little things that separate good code from great code. That's what we're going to get into. The real why behind the code you're writing every single day.
You know, here's the thing about web browsers. They're your best friend, but they're also a little too forgiving. They'll look at your messy code, sigh, and try their best to figure out what you meant. But relying on that is like building a house on a shaky foundation. It might stand up today, but it's just waiting to cause problems you can't see. All right, let's get into it. We're going to start by looking at some of the fundamentals that, believe it or not, are super easy to mess up, even if you've been doing this for a while.
Okay, I know. An HTML element, opening tag, content, closing tag. We all learned this on day one. But it's not about the block itself, it's about how the blocks fit together. That's where things get interesting, and honestly, that's where things can really go wrong. So take a look at this. It's a perfect example. On the left, everything's nested properly, like a set of Russian dolls. The strong tag lives completely inside the P tag, but on the right, it's a mess. The tags are overlapping, and when that happens, you're basically telling the browser, hey, you figure it out. And trust me, you don't want the browser guessing.
Oh, this is a classic. Forgetting to put quotes around your attribute values. It's one of those things that seems to work right up until the moment it spectacularly doesn't. And while yeah, technically it can work for a single word, it's just a really fragile way to write code. It's a ticking time bomb.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The folks at MDN Web Docs put it perfectly. If your attribute has a space in it and no quotes, the browser just gets completely confused. It sees the first word and then thinks the other words are totally new, broken attributes. The fix is so simple. Just always quote your attributes.
Ever wonder why you can't just type a less than sign directly in your HTML? Well, think about it. That character is part of HTML's language. If you just type it, the browser thinks you're trying to start a new tag. So to actually show the symbol, you have to use its special code. You have to escape it so the browser knows you mean the character itself.
So we've nailed the syntax, the basic grammar. Now for the fun part. Let's talk about meaning. This is where Semantic HTML comes in, and it's what really makes your code shine.
The idea here is really powerful. Instead of just using generic boxes and making them look pretty, you use tags that actually describe what the content is. You're giving clues to the browser, to search engines, and especially to screen readers about the purpose of everything on the page.
Let's look at these three. You could make them all look identical with CSS, but they mean totally different things. A div is just a generic box. It has no meaning. But a section, that tells the browser this is a thematic grouping of content. And an article is even more specific. It's a self-contained piece that could be syndicated somewhere else, like a blog post. Choosing the right one adds a whole new layer of information. This is probably the best example of semantics in action. We all learned to use strong for bold and I for italics, but those tags only describe how the text looks. The semantic tags, strong and emphasis, describe what the text means. Strong says the content is important. Emphasis says it has emphasis. A screen reader might actually change its tone of voice for an emphasis tag, something it would never do for an I tag. That's the difference right there. Okay, so we've covered semantic tags. Now let's dive into some specific attributes. These are the little details that often get forgotten, but are absolutely critical for a modern website. So let me ask you, when you add an image, how much thought do you really put into that alt attribute? Because it is so much more than just a nice to have. It's non-negotiable, and for some very good reasons. First, that alt attribute is the image's voice for anyone using a screen reader, and it tells search engines what the image is about. Then there's the lang attribute, which tells the browser the language of the page so it can be pronounced or translated correctly. And finally, that for and ID pair on a form, that's the digital handshake that connects a label to its input, making it usable for everyone. These aren't just details, they're essential. Here's a pro tip that could save you a major headache. We all use target equals blank to open links in a new tab. But if you're not also adding rel equals no opener, you're creating a security risk. You're basically leaving the door open for that new tab to potentially mess with your original page. Always use them together. It's the safe and smart way to do it.
So let's zoom out a bit and talk about the long game. Why does all this stuff actually matter? It's all about one thing: writing code that's not just for today, but for whatever comes next on the web.
I love this quote from the official HTML5 spec. It's a peek behind the curtain. They're basically admitting that for years, browsers just fixed our bad code, and sometimes those fixes became the unofficial standard. That's wild. When you write clean, standards-compliant code, you're not relying on some browser's weird quirk. You're ensuring it works everywhere.
At the end of the day, following the rules isn't about being picky. It's about saving yourself from those bizarre late-night debugging sessions. It's about making your site faster because the browser isn't wasting time guessing. And believe it or not, it actually helps the web itself evolve in a stable way.
And if you want to see this future-proof thinking in action, look no further than the video element. It's just brilliant. You can give it multiple video files. The browser tries the first one. Can't play it? No problem. It just moves on to the next one on the list. It's designed from the ground up to be resilient and ready for the future.
So that brings us right back to the start. The next time you're writing code, ask yourself this. Are you building something that just works right now on your machine? Or are you crafting a professional, well-structured document that's ready for anything? Because the difference between those two things, well, it's all in these forgotten rules.